So this is a lecture that the students are most anxious about in terms of the exam structure and the passing and the results and all. So alright, so let's quickly see that. So when you're looking at the structure of the exam is going to be a 5.5 hour window basically. The actual exam wherein you are sitting and answering questions is only 4.5 hours time frame. So basically you start with the pledge and a tutorial. So the pledge is basically wherein you sign that you're not going to be cheating, etc. So you're just signing a pledge that yes, you're not going to be discussing the questions attempted in the exam outside the exam hall and all. So all those things are there, and a tutorial how to use the exam software. The tutorial is not going to be required as such because the entire exam software is also available online to check as to how your exam day software is going to look like, and we have a lecture wherein we cover exactly how to use the software, how to go about attempting the exam and all in order to manage your time, etc. And then you start off with the exam. So this takes you barely 5-10 minutes or so. You have a 2 hour 15-minute paper, the first session as we call it, 135 minutes. Then you have an optional 30-minute break. You generally wrap up in 20-25 minutes, maximum 20 minutes actually rather, and you don't take exactly 30 minutes, 20-25 minutes, you're back to, you take your break, you have your food and all that. Anyways, I discuss all of that in the how to attempt the exam lecture and on the exam day and all of that. So you have a 20-minute break, a little bit of grabbing a quick bite and water and all that, and then again 135 minutes, that's again a 2 hour 15-minute second session as we call it. So these two sessions is when you actually attempt the exam, 4.5 hours. Half hour is a break that is optional, it's not mandatory that you have to take the entire break, and then at the end you might be asked to fill in a very quick survey by the institute. So that concludes your 5.5 hour time frame. So 4.5 hours exam, half an hour optional break, 5 hours, and the pledge tutorial feedback could total up to an hour, a half an hour. Now what is the structure? When you're looking at the exam basically, so level 1, level 2, level 3 is going to be, level 1 is 90 MCQs in 2 hour 15 minutes and 90 MCQs in 2 hour 15 minutes. You're approximately getting, just a second, I had the number, you have 135 minutes. 1.5 minutes if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 1.5 minutes per question is what you're getting over here when you're looking at the level 1 curriculum. In level 2 approximately 3 minutes is what you get. Why am I doing all this calculation today like this? Yeah, 3 minutes is what you get on a per MCQ basis. In level 1, the difference is that you have normal questions, you have MCQs, you have individual questions, as in one MCQ, there is a 3-line, 4-line, 5-line, 7-line, whatever question, you have 3 options and there is no negative marking. Each of the MCQ has 3 options, be it whichever level, and there is no negative marking across all the levels. So there are 3 options, there is no negative marking, you have 90 MCQs. The questions could be jumbled up, as in, basically what happens is in level 1, ethics, like 2 subjects are going to be combined. Then 3 subjects, you have combination of questions. And the weightages of questions, the number of questions per subject is predetermined. We'll discuss it once I get to the subject lecture, the subject slide. So it is going to be coming up next. So basically, say for example, ethics and quants, or ethics. So ethics, you have, let's say 30 questions. I'm just giving an example. 30 questions, all ethics questions, 30 questions comes together. Then you have 3 subjects combined, 50 questions, let's say, from FRA, economics and quants, let's say. So you mix the 3 subjects and you have questions mixed from those 3 subjects. And then you may be having another subject. We'll discuss all those details on a level-wise basis. But here what we are looking at is level 1, 90 MCQs. Each MCQ, there is a question. There are 3 options, you mark the correct answer and you move forward, and there is no negative marking, so obviously you're not going to be skipping any question. And the same 90 MCQs in the second half. You're tested on 5 different subjects in the first half and 5 different subjects in the second half when you're in level 1. So in the first half you have ethics, in the second half there is no ethics or quants or FRA, right? So, and a couple of subjects may be segregated, as in 2 subjects together, then 3 subjects together. So there is a little bit of categorization done over there, right? But it doesn't matter in terms of your attempting the questions and all, and the details we discuss in the how to attempt lecture, where we talk about exactly how to time management and accuracy level, etc., and how to exactly attempt the question paper on the exam day. So we have 90 individual MCQs in level 1, 90 individual MCQs in level 2. One MCQ is not related to the other, because in level 2 this format is going to change entirely, and there is something called the item sets. So item set is basically where you get kind of a case study, which is a 2-page, 3-page kind of a case study, and on one case study you're getting, let's say, 4 MCQs or 5 MCQs or 6 MCQs pertaining to a single case study. So a case study is there, and on that case study, or a case or an item set as we call it, and then that could be 2-3 pages worth, and then you have MCQs on that. Each MCQ again has got the same 3 options and there is no negative marking, so there is no change in that. But if you notice, the number of questions have become half. when you're moving from level 1 to level 2, the item set format of questions. But time management is going to be a problem in level 2 and not level 1. So the difficulty level of the questions increases in level 2. Level 2, level 3, there is not much of a change or a problem in terms of difficulty level. I'll come to that part. So level 2 is 44 MCQs in the first session, 2 hours 15 minutes, 44 MCQs in the second session, that is 2 hours 15 minutes. These item sets, they can have, one item set can have either 4 or 5 or 6 MCQs. Normally you have about 9 or 10 item sets, 8 to 11, normally 9 to 10 item set. So 9 cases, and each case will be having 4, 5 or 6 MCQs to be tested on that. Right? Are you understanding this? And anyways, you don't have to worry, because when you move to level 2 and then when you move to level 3, you understand the details with respect to each each item set in the exam format and how to change your preparation strategy. So when you study for level 2, I'll tell you how to change your preparation strategy for level 2. When you study for level 3, I'll tell you how to change your preparation strategy for level 3. So with each level, we'll be evolving obviously. In level 3, what happens is your exam structure is going to be, the first session is essay type, and the second session is the same item set, 44 MCQs, a case study I was talking about. It is not that difficult as it sounds, because normally they don't jumble up the entire case study, and it is subject wise. So you have a question, let's say from the first couple of paragraphs you have the first MCQ, then from the second, third paragraph you have the second MCQ, then from the fourth, fifth paragraph you have the third MCQ. So it is not that they're going to be jumbling up too much, so that is not generally a challenge. Also in level 2, level 3, there is no demarcation as to which subject is going to be turning up in the morning half and which subject is going to be turning up in the second session. Sorry, morning half I'm saying, first session or the second session, because in level 1 we know that these 5 subjects are in the first session, these 5 subjects are in the second session, but that does not actually impact your preparation or your attempting strategy as such. So level 1 we have individual 90-90 MCQs, level 2 we have case studies or item sets as we call it, with each item set having 4 to 6 MCQs in 44 MCQs, 8 to 10 cases in the first and the second session. In level 3, the second session is exactly the same as level 2. You have your 9, 10, 11 item sets or so, and 44 MCQs totally. In total. In level 3, the first part, essay type, actually it sounds like you're writing very long answers or essay type questions and all, but that is not the essay type as you would assume based on your school exams or college exams that you've taken. Because in essay type, what basically happens is, there is going to be again an item set, a case given. On that case, there is a question. So say for example, whether the investor wants to take more risk, less risk, or average risk. So you have to answer the option, more risk, and then maybe write 2 sentences as to why do you think the investor wants to take more risk. So that is going to be marking an option. Maybe you will get 2 marks for that, and then marking the correct typing as in typing the two correct reason, that might be having 2 marks. So 2 points for marking the correct option, and then 2 points for writing the 2 reasons, typing the 2 reasons. So 4 points is that question. So essay type again is item sets. So item set as in one item set is, let's say, 20 minutes. So 20 minutes or 20 marks. So basically what happens is, in essay type, we have 130 points or 130 marks worth of questions. 135 minutes, 135 marks of paper. And that 135 marks paper you're giving in 2 hours 15 minutes. In school, we are generally habituated to taking a 3-hour paper, 100 mark paper in 3 hours. But here it's 135 marks paper in 2 hours 15, in 135 minutes, 2 hours 15 minutes. And there is no beating around the bush, because they're objective type questions. So it sounds a little, not weird I would say, but when we are comparing it with school and college exams, essay would mean 8-10 marks of questions where we had to write 2 pages about it. That is not the case, and you cannot be beating around the bush, because it's very clearly defined in terms of the examiners and all. It is very clearly defined as to these answers are acceptable, these are the points and all that is required. So it is not long answers at all. It is going to be simply choosing an option, writing an answer, and the answer is going to be state 2 reasons for this and that. And the questions are obviously not define this, define that, state the differences and all. It is going to be completely conceptual and analytical, even when you're looking at level 1 and 2 curriculum. So if you're going to mug up, you're not going to clear the exam. Be very, very careful about it. Your concept, your base, your understanding, your basics and all has to be extremely, extremely strong from level 1 itself, because level 1, level 2 subjects are same. Level 2, level 3, 7 subjects are same, 3 subjects are removed in L3. In level 3, we are not going to be studying 3 subjects any further. We are done with that. We focus more on portfolio. Anyways, I'll discuss this more when we discuss the syllabus part and all. But this is the basic exam structure. Item sets, 3 MCQs, no negative marking. Acha, one more thing. When you're looking at the 3 options and no negative marking, some students misconstrue this to be a very, very easy exam. I'm not saying it is difficult for those who understand, for those who are keeping their basics strong and all. It is absolutely an easy exam. If you mug up, it is going to be a disaster. Now, 3 options distractor. There is something called a distractor. So out of the 3 options, what happens is whatever mistakes you're likely to make or whatever confusions you might be having with a particular question, and whatever wrong answer is possible out of that confusion is going to be one of the options. So in the 3 options, obviously one of the options has to be the correct option. The other 2 options, you're going to be having confusing options, in the sense that if I make a calculation mistake where there is a high probability of making a particular mistake, let's say, with that mistake, whatever answer I get will be one of the other options. So the other 2 options are not random. There is one correct option, but the other 2 options are also not random. It is very thought out options, that if you make so and so mistake, silly mistake, confusing, error, etc., then in that case, that is going to be the other 2 options. So that is something called the distractor. So the distractors are going to be there. So that is the reason why you cannot take it lightly just because there is no negative marking. In fact, what I want to tell you is that if the number of questions become half, then you have to understand the accuracy level required is even more, is even higher as you move towards the level up, as you level up. Because the point is that right now, say for example, you don't have 7-8 exam papers like in school or college for 7-8 subjects. You have a single day exam paper, so you have total 180 questions. So each question is worth 1 by 180 in terms of weightage. In terms of weightage, it is 1 by, sorry, what am I doing? That is 0.55%. But the moment you move to level 2, each MCQ is worth 1 by 88, total 88 MCQs. So 1 by 88 is the weightage of each MCQ. In the 3rd level also, we'll discuss it when we are in level 3. So 44 MCQs, again, the weightage is going to be weightage, what do you call it? This 50% weightage for this section, 50% weightage for essay type. I'll discuss this more in detail when we move towards level 3. And when you're in level 3, it will be discussed in the lecture. And yeah, that's basically going to be your exam structure. Now, when I'm looking at level 1, level 2 and level 3, the difficulty level, again, it is different as to, it's very difficult for me to define. So the difficulty is because it is new, because you have new concepts, new terms, new subjects, new theories. You're studying theories as in not theory subjective part, but theories as in capital asset pricing model theory, dividend discount theory, dividend theory, dividend payment theory, etc. So it's relatively new. The difficulty level increases in level 2 because in level 2, you're actually assuming you're using the knowledge of level 1 and then building upon it. So all the 10 subjects are going to be the same with level 1 and level 2, but the difficulty level is obviously going to be increasing because you're now moving forward with the subject. Here the difficulty level is because of new terminology, new subjects. Here it is because you're getting in depth with those subjects. And level 3 is going to be similar to level 2, I would say, because level 3 is more of, applying what you've learned, combining subjects, integrating subjects together. So that is what is level 3. So level 3, level 2, I would say it's going to be relatively similar in terms of time frame. Time management of the exam, it is going to be relatively on the lower side for level 1. We will be decently practicing in all of that, and level 1 is not going to be so much of a challenge in terms of time management. Normally people have about 15 minutes plus 15 minutes or so left at the end of the exam. There could be students who are slow in terms of attempting or who are even more cautious while attempting. So that could, so anyways, when we discuss how to study, how to attend the exam and all, we'll discuss about how to manage that, but normally you'll not have a time management issue. So don't worry about it. There is a little bit of time management issue over here because you're learning how to do the item set questions. Now the questions are going to be difficult. They will be calculation intensive. Over here it is a single MCQ. You read the question, you do a little bit of calculation, understand, apply your knowledge, your studies, or whatever you studied, your concepts and all, and you mark the answer. In level 2, it is going to be more intensive. So that is why it gets a little difficult. So in level 1, say for example, there is a question, find out A. In level 2, the question would be find A plus B plus C equal to X. You have to find X in level 2. So the difficulty level will increase. It is not that difficult. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to make a comparison. Level 3, it is going to be similar, but time management in essay type questions is going to be quite high. Because again, you're not attempting a 100-mark paper in 3 hours, you're attempting a 135 marks paper in 2 hours 15 minutes. That is again 135 minutes. So you have 45 minutes less and you are not writing gibberish. You're not supposed to be writing any beating around the bush. That if I'm supposed to be writing an essay on a tree, but I have prepared an essay on cow, so I'm going to tie the cow to the tree and write the essay on cow. You can't do that. You're understanding? I don't know if you people have heard these kind of jokes in all college time and etc. So anyway, so basically not supposed to be beating around the bush. You'll have to write to the point answer. If you know the answer, you get your marks. If you don't know the answer, you do not get your marks. It's as simple as that. Preparation time is actually a little higher in level 1 because you're learning new chapters, new concepts, new topics, etc., new subjects altogether. So therefore the preparation time is a little higher in level 1, marginally higher, not as such. Preparation time is similar or rather a little less, maybe little less, not too less, but maybe a 10% time could be less, but it is more intense, and there is a decent amount of practice required. Level 2, level 3, the preparation time is also going to be the same. I don't find any difference as such. When you're looking at the passing rate, it is going to be somewhere close to 40 to 45 in both the level 1 and level 2. It's normally I've seen 43, 44, 41, 42 or something, and in level 3 it kind of increases somewhere around 55, I would rather say 52, 57 or 51 to 57 or something like that. I'll keep a range somewhere around close to 55 percentile or so, percentage or so. So if 100 people are taking exam, level 1, 40, 45 students are going to pass the exam. You have to understand that it is a percentile system. So the institute is keeping the passing rate at 40 percentile. 40% people, candidates appearing for the exam are passing the exam. That means that you have to be in the top 40 percentile. When I discuss the results, I'll discuss this part in detail. Then when you're looking at level 2, again understand that out of these 40 students are going to clear the exam. So 40 out of 40% of 40 is going to be 16 students. And out of those 16, 50% students, let's say, clear. So it becomes 8 students over there. Because here you're going to be competing with those who cleared part 1, level 1. Though there you're going to be competing with people who've cleared level 2. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to give you a very, very simple reality check. So no complacency is going to work. Also, you have to understand people are spending a lot of money when they are taking these exams. The exams are expensive. The retake of the exam is expensive. So it becomes important. I'll discuss about the retake of the exam and all that and the expense part also. But the retake of the exam becomes expensive, and because of that it becomes very important that everybody studies. So everybody is studying, putting in hard work. People are not taking these exams lightly. Everybody is studying, so you also have to study thoroughly. There is no shortcut, and I'm not going to be selling you any kind of shortcut and all to your exams or your because it does not happen. So don't get into all that rubbish. Passing score. Now the passing score is something that the institute does not provide. So passing score in the sense that, let me come back to passing score in a while. I'll just give you one idea. In terms of passing score, I would say that required accuracy is higher. And here accuracy and attempt has to be there, because in essay type questions, very often students miss the paper, as in they're not able to complete the entire paper. So that becomes a little bit of a challenge over there. So passing score, let me keep it at that. Number of subjects, 10 subjects, same 10 subjects over here. And over here we have 7 subjects. We get 3 subjects eliminated in level 3. I'll just discuss that over here. So when you're looking at the subjects and the weightages basically provides us as to how many questions from a subject is going to be turning up in the exam. So let's say level 1, ethics has got a 15 to 20% weightage. So out of, and these weightages obviously it's out of 100%. So you have total 90, 90, 180 questions. 180 questions into 15 to 20%, you can do the calculation. That many questions are going to come from ethics. It's a range provided. So you don't have an exact 20, 25, 30 questions, but 15% or 20% of 180 questions is going to turn up from ethics, and so on and so forth as you move forward with different subjects. The different subjects, I've discussed what each of the subjects are and what are the chapters and all in the syllabus lecture for your level. So when you're looking at the ethics, quants, eco, FRA, etc. So we are looking at, when we move from level 1 to level 2, ethics goes down a bit in terms of weightage. Level 3 remains the same. When you're looking at quants, okay, let me just tell you, level 3, quants, FRA and not equity, corporate finance is eliminated. Quants, FRA and corporate finance is eliminated. These 3 subjects is not needed in level 3 anymore. Portfolio increases significantly because we are going to apply fixed income, alternate investment, equity, all the subjects from a portfolio point of view, from a portfolio perspective. So therefore, portfolio gets a much higher weightage, and level 2 generally has a little higher weightage on the equity side. When you're looking at quants weightage goes down and then it's 0. Economics weightage again goes down. FRA weightage goes down marginally. Corporate finance similar but little marginally down. And I'm even considering it down if either the upper limit or the lower limit is getting reduced. Portfolio is kind of similar only, I would say, or little higher maybe. Derivatives again little higher or similar. Fixed income is again little higher because it's only the upper limit that is getting increases, and the alternate investments also is going to be a little increase in the weightage. Level 3 portfolio increases significantly, 3 subjects are eliminated, and fixed income increases marginally. So that is how the weightages go. So weightages is basically you multiply the percentage weightage with the number of questions in the exam, and you get the total number of questions or the range of number of questions that can turn up in the exam from that particular subject. Nothing much to discuss over here. I've discussed the subjects and all in detail in the syllabus lecture, and with every level I'll give you an idea about obviously how the syllabus looks like and how you need to change your preparation strategy. When you're looking at the exam terms, so this has created a little confusion for the students. Of course, all the 3 levels are computer based. Now what happens is level 1 is going to be taking place across. Level 1 is going to be taking Level 1 is going to be taking place across all the 4 quarters. So if you notice, the exam months are basically the middle of the quarter. So they are not on the first or the last month of the quarter, they are the middle month of each quarter. Quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, February, May, August and November. So level 1 is going to be taking place in every single term. Level 2 is going to be taking place only in the months of February and August, and level 3 is going to be taking place only in the months of May and November. Now what happens is the shortest time in which you can take the exam is going to be 1.5 years, all the 3 exams. So when say for example I took level 1 in February, I can take level 2 only in August, and yes, in August level 2 exists, so yes, I can take it. If you take level 1 in May, then you can take the exam in November, level 2, but level 2 does not take place in November, so you have to take it in February. So therefore from May you have to move down to February, that is 9 months ahead. So the shortest time in which you could probably prepare for the exam is if you start L1 here, then L2 happens over here, and L3 happens over here. No, it happens over here. So therefore this becomes 9 months. If I start over here, let me try this. If I start with August, my level 1, level 2, level 3, no, it does not happen. If I start with level 1 over here, level 1, level 2 does not happen, it is over here, and then level 3. So I would say that it's going to be approximately 6 months and 9 months. So 2 gaps are required. One is a 6-month gap, one is a 9-month gap. Am I making a mistake somewhere? No, I don't think so. L1, L2. L3 has to be here. Yeah. So one is a 6 months, one is a 9 months. So either a 6 months gap for level 2 or a 6 months and 9 months for level 3, or 6 months for level 3, 9 months for level 2 and 6 months for level 3. So you'll need a 6 month and 9 month, 15 month gap basically. So between level 1, 2 and level 1 and level 3, you'll have to have a 15 month gap. That is how the exams are going to be taking place. So you can take level 1 in any of the exams. Also, if you do not clear the exam in any particular batch, any particular term, so if you do not clear, for example, the level 1 exam in February, you cannot take level 2 in May, you have to take level 1 in August. So basically the idea is that between any 2 exams, you have to have a 6 months gap, because obviously when you take the exam, it takes a couple of months, 1.5 months to 2 months, maximum 60 days basically, for the results to get released. Only after that you will be able to take the exam, register for the exam and then take the exam. So the exam is going to be at with a gap of minimum of 6 months. So level 1 is taking place in all the quarters, level 2 in the first third, and level 3 in the second fourth. So that is how the exam structuring has been done. 6 months minimum gap between any of the 2 exams is mandatory. So when you're looking at that, the shortest time is basically between level 1 and level 3 is 15 months gap, and whatever time you take to prepare for level 1 exam. Scheduling window, generally your exam, say for example the exam is happening in the month of February, so generally around the 10th, 15th or the second half of February, you will have a 10-15 day, I'm not being able to recall the exact number of days, 10-12 days window, and you will have to book your slot. You can book your slot in the morning or the afternoon or something, so that there is a total of 5.5 hours. So I think the exams are also scheduled on Sundays. So Sundays also you can schedule your exam. There is a time bracket, there is a time frame within which you can register for the exams and book your slot of 5.5 hours, starting from maybe 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, or they have the slots and all. The exams are conducted by an institute, by Prometric exam providers. So they conduct the exam at their centers. I'll discuss the centers and all later. The kind of questions are going to be conceptual, so they're not going to be direct. Even if it is an MCQ question, do not expect direct questions. They're going to be application based questions where you have to apply your concepts. Subjects with less weightage become more important because if suppose a subject has 10 questions, so if you make 3 mistakes, it's 30% gone, 30% marks gone. But out of, let's say a subject has got 5 questions and there you make 3 questions wrong, 60% marks gone and you get only 40% in that subject, right? So less the number of questions from a subject, more weightage each of the questions have. So the accuracy level is something you'll have to work on, and students make a lot of silly mistakes, so you have to follow instructions very clearly when I talk about the mistake sheet, etc., and the how to study lecture. So you have to be very, very careful about it. Rough work, and also when you're taking the exam, of course it is going to be on a computer screen, so you'll see the question, you'll have to do the rough work in loose sheets of paper and all, and then mark your option on the computer itself. So it's a computer based exam. So rough work, you'll be getting 2 sheets of paper and all to do the rough work. Obviously you'll be allowed to calculate, allowed to carry your calculator to the exam hall. There is no Microsoft Excel and all as such required when you're looking at the exam, because you have your financial calculator that you're going to be using during the exam. So that is that. Next part is I want you to understand the basic idea of how the sample result looks like, and then I will explain to you all the details with respect to the results part. Alright. Yeah, so I was talking about the sample result. So when you're looking at the exam result, there are going to be 2 pages or 2 parts to the result. The first is going to be an overall performance. I'm not sure if you're able to see the exact lines. You may not be able to, so I'll just draw once again. So one is your overall performance. When you're looking at the overall performance, basically what happens is there are 3 lines provided to you. This is 10 percentile score, 90 percentile score. There is a minimum passing score, and then what happens is you are going to be provided with your result. So basically what happens is if you're coming below this, if you're, let's say this is your score, so your score I'm marking with a red color. Let me just make the color a little. So let's say this is your score. So that means that you are falling below the 10 percentile group. Basically the idea is if your score is anywhere over here, that means you have performed in the bottom 10 percentile people. That is, out of 100 people, you are in the bottom 10 people, 10 students score. Of course, we are not going to be over here. So now what happens is, if you are somewhere above this, let's talk about this first. So 90 percentile plus. So if your score, let's say your exam score is over here, that means you have performed, you are in the bracket of top 10 people out of 100, every 100 people who have taken the exam. Again, understand it is not about number of marks that you have scored on every subject or in totality. Here it is about out of 100 people taking the exam, how are you classified, where are you classified? Are you in the top 90 percentile people? Is your score above 90 percentile? That means your score is above 90% students who've taken the exam. Are you in the bottom 10 or are you between 10 and 90? Right? That is what your score tells you. So if I may overwrite over here, this is your score. This is 10 percentile. This is 90 percentile. And this is the minimum passing score. So this is the minimum passing score. Now what happens is only if you are in this part, only if you are in this part, above the minimum passing score, only if your score line, your percentile is going to be above the minimum passing score, only then you clear the exam, you pass the exam, otherwise not. So the first part of the question or the exam paper is going to tell you the result is passed or not passed. That is going to be based on whether you are above the percentile of the minimum passing score. Are you above the minimum passing score level or not? If you are above the minimum passing score level, you pass, otherwise you do not pass. And the range tells you as to in terms of 10 percentile and 90 percentile, so your score compared to others. So out of 100 people taking the exam, 10 people, if your score is within this range, that means you are in the bottom 10. If your score is above 90, you are in the top 10. If it is between 10 and 90, you can understand the percentile part. Tell me, are you understanding this? This is the overall score. The second part of the score is basically going to tell you, now the score is based on the score, actual score, not percentile. It is about how many points or how many marks, how much marks did you get? What is your score like? Also what happens is, you may not be able to notice over here, but your exam, this is your score. This is my student's result actually. This is your score and this is his percentile. Basically there is a range given. So each of the subjects separately it is going to be provided. This kid's result is extremely good. So he has a 90 percentile plus. If you see, this is his score. Sorry, I'll use another color. So this is his score. It is above, it's quite above the 90 percentile rank, 90 percentile level. And when you're looking at the individual subjects and all, in each subject, in alternate investment, 50% marks, 70% marks, his is over here. In corporate finance, his is again above 90. In derivatives also it is high. He has not done that great in ethics. Ethics is still above 70%, but not as high as the other subjects look like. Also, if you notice, there is you may not be able to see exactly from the distance, but if you see, there is a little bit of shaded area provided. That shaded area tells you the range in which you are most likely going to be. So based on the number of mistakes, the kind of errors you made on the exam day, the exam software has got these inbuilt tools and all, which tells you that you are, this time when you took this exam, your score was this, but your score should be within this range. It's like a confidence interval. You will study confidence interval when you study normal distribution and all those things when we study quants. So this is basically telling you that if your score is here, in all probability your score should be around this if you retake the exam or if you take another exam and all. So on a subject wise performance basically gives you an indication as to which subject you're doing well with, which subject needs improvement, or how to manage the subjects and all given, as in which subject you're performing well, not so good, and what subject you need to work harder on. So that is what it is telling you. So accuracy, as I told you, obviously accuracy matters, and also accuracy with respect to others. So basically what you need to understand is if the exam has easy questions, then everybody is going to be marking most of the questions correctly. So your accuracy has to be higher than everybody. Understand, it is all about your percentile as to how are you performing in comparison with everybody else. So therefore it's percentile. Easy questions, your accuracy needs to be even higher. If the exam paper is difficult, in that case accuracy level may be a little lower also, that could also work. But since the exams are more software driven, as an exam is online, it's computer based testing, so in that case what happens is the paper is going to be fairly balanced. You will have a mix of easy, difficult, medium questions, etc. So I would not read too much into it, but on an average you'll have to perform really well. Your accuracy has to go up. You're not allowed to make silly mistakes, you're not allowed to do selective studying and all. You are supposed to manage your time well, you're supposed to be taking it very seriously. What I've seen is the problem with most of the students today, and which is getting worse every single year. I'll be very, very honest, you may not like what I'm saying, but I'll be very, very direct and straightforward rather than sugarcoating things and telling you things that you will feel happy hearing. But the point is that students' focus level is going down day by day. So with every passing batch, I see that the amount of hard work a student can give. So for example, it would be, I would find so many students who would be able to sit for 10, 12 hours at a stretch and study. But today, even 3 hours, 4 hours at a stretch is becoming a challenge for the students. I have taken 8-hour, 7-hour batches in my classes over here. I have taught on the day of Diwali and all also. And I have seen students so focused and so, you have to make a lot of sacrifices when you're studying, and that respect and everything for your studies and all, and that, I don't know, I mean, how do I express that? But that drive is needed. But today the problem is that there are too many distractions, and it has become, things are becoming too casual in terms of even following instructions and all, and students do not follow instructions. They miss out portions in between because they're going to be using their phones in between the classes. They'll miss out an important point and all. They'll take things casually, and it is going to be a problem for them. But of course there are very good students also. I'm not saying that everybody is like that, but the number of students or the proportion is kind of decreasing is what I see. So at least you people don't make a mistake. Work really hard on yourself. Get away from all these distractions and have a very disciplined and routine life. Disciplined, routine and all, so people feel that, I'm not too cool or something, I don't know what, but they start feeling a little backward if they're not getting up late, if they're too disciplined, too routine, too focused, then they feel like, we are not fitting in, or we're not a part of the HEP or whatever you call it, society and all that. So when the result is going to be released is going to be about after the exam. I would assume that after the window is over, say for example February exam is there, so your results should be out somewhere in the middle of April. So 45 days is what I would expect the results to be out. On an average 60 days is the maximum they take. Level 3 I think they'll be taking 60 days to release the results, but otherwise at the end of the window, so February exam month, so at the end of February we'll calculate, from end of February 45 days, so mid-April, so 1.5 months later, 45 days later. The results are going to be provided to you on email. Generally the mails are sent at 9 AM as per the US time, and at times it gets a little delayed, as in it takes a couple of hours to send mails to all the students across the globe. So it's not that you're going to be getting the results immediately. It's going to take a while, and that is when the results are released. And how the results are going to be emailed to you, and the results will also be available on your institute's web portal next day. I think that gets updated next day. Emails come out on the day of the result, and next day it will also be available on your portal. Percentile, I've told you, it's a percentile game, so you have to outperform the others. You have to be in the top 40 percentile, let's say, people who are taking the exam. The institute does not provide a minimum passing score. Like in college, we used to have that if you get 40 marks plus or 40% plus in every single subject and 50% on an average, let's say, then you pass CA exams or the others and all. But here it is, there is no minimum passing score or an exact format provided, but the thumb rule, the basic idea in terms of, what should be your target score in order to clear the exam. The target would be that overall you need to perform really well, as in you need to be, obviously you need to have a total score which is in the top 40% people, because the 40% people are passing the exam, and subject wise you cannot do a 0. So say for example, I'm getting, let's say, 100 questions, 5 questions are from one subject, I leave that subject altogether and get a 0 in that subject, and out of 95 remaining questions I get 95 out of 95. So I leave one subject altogether and I get 95 out of 95. I don't think you deserve to pass, because you need the knowledge of all the subjects as provided. So you have to perform decently well in all the subjects. Ethics becomes a little extra important, so you can make a note of that if you want. Ethics, you have to perform decently well, and on an overall basis also you need to perform decently well. So one, you have to give your best shot, no selective studying and all that. See, strategy of studying would be when I'm talking about time management, when I'm talking about how to study, how to improve my accuracy, how to reduce my silly mistakes and all. Strategy is not trying to predict which chapter will come, which question will come. All that is all nonsense. There is no shortcut to success. There is no shortcut to studying and all. You have to be disciplined, you have to behave like a student, and you have to study if you want to pass your exam and you want to grow in your career. So always remember that. So these things are going to be quite important. So this is about your results. So yeah, that's more or less about it in terms of the exam structure and how your result is. So we don't have a minimum passing score either on a subject wise basis or on an overall basis. Normally we expect a 75%, I would say rather 75% strike rate, as in 75% correctly marked questions. And subject wise, not too bad, as in at least 50% in all the subjects and at least 75% questions marked correctly. But again, a very important determinant over here is going to be your peers, as in your the other students who are taking the exam, because it is a percentile based exam. So that is going to be very important in determining it. That is a basic broad thumb rule that I'm talking about. So it's not that confusing or something. I'm just trying to give you every single information possible with respect to the exam and the results and all, right?